So I came here today, I'm Congressman Frank Pallone, because I want to voice my support for the Highland Park Board of Education and everyone involved in this resolution, I guess, that the Board of Ed, it's a policy that's going to be voted on this evening. I don't normally come around to towns or boards of ed and, tell them whether I like or don't like what they're doing, because it's pretty much up to them locally to make those decisions, obviously. But I think in this case, I couldn't help myself, because I just think that they're being so inclusive and so supportive of transgenders, and in light of what's been happening in North Carolina and in Congress as well last week, I think it's important for me to speak out and say that I really appreciate the fact that the Board of Ed is considering this policy, and obviously support their adoption of it this evening. And the way I understand it, this is probably going to be the strongest policy statement in support of transgender students of any school district in the state, if not in the country. It certainly isn't the first time that Highland Park has taken a stand on the civil rights issue and been in the forefront of progressive action. But I think this one in particular is something that we need to say thank you very much, and that's why I'm here. I'm sure you know what's been going on elsewhere. The governor of North Carolina obviously signed, I don't know, on a given day, it's not clear to me where he stands anymore, because he's going back and forth on this issue so many times. But I was kind of shocked, frankly, that the issue of bathrooms, locker rooms, public facilities, became such a lightning rod, because to me it's just common sense that that somebody should be able to use the bathroom of their choice. And I was also pleased with the fact that the president issued a directive, which I guess is also somewhat unusual, essentially saying that transgender students should have that option. So I do think that, again, this is in the vanguard of what I considered civil rights, anti-discrimination. I've always felt that any kind of discrimination, whether it's based on your race or your ethnicity or religion, or in this case your gender, shouldn't be tolerated. And so I'm very pleased with what the president has done, and again would condemn what happened with the governor of North Carolina. Now, one of the things that happened last week in Congress, which I wanted to mention, is that a few years ago I sent a letter to the president with the Equality Caucus. We have a caucus in Congress called the Equality Caucus, and I spearheaded a letter a few years ago to the president asking that there not be any discrimination based on sexual identity in the awarding of federal contracts. And the president actually did an executive order within the last year or so as a follow-up to that letter, and the effort by the Equality Caucus to get that kind of executive order enacted. So last week in the Defense Authorization Bill, there was an amendment that would essentially rescind or overrule the president's executive order with regard to federal contracts. And it was one of those occasions where there weren't enough votes on the board to pass this amendment to basically reject the president's executive order. And the speaker had to get Republican members, in this case, to change their votes on the House floor. And I don't want to get into it too much, but normally the way we operate, Nancy, in the Congress, a little different from the legislature, is that if there's only 5 minutes left on the board, then you can't vote electronically anymore if you want to change your vote. You have to go down to the well and actually fill out a card and show the card to change your vote, in which case the media and everybody sees that you're doing it. But because, I'm speculating, but I think it's obvious, because the speaker wanted to change these members' votes, and they didn't want to show that they had changed their vote, he kept the machine open until all the votes had been changed. And it was a violation of the rules. And so we all the Democrats and those that were against this amendment, made a big uproar and the media pointed out that the House was in disarray and, we were all fighting and all that. But the reason we were fighting was because it was obvious that the members who changed their vote did not want their constituents to know that they were doing it. So it indicates very strongly that, in my opinion, that the public is supportive of any kind of a law that's against discrimination, that's supportive of the LGBT community, because if a member refuses to come down and change their vote because they're going to do something that is discriminatory, they can't do it in public. They have to, and to this day, we don't know exactly who changed their vote to accomplish that. Now, I don't know, that's not a crucial thing, but I just think it is important to mention. The other thing that I wanted to say is that, I've talked over the years, this issue is something that's come to the forefront now because of North Carolina and other states that are taking discriminatory actions against transgender. I've had certainly transgender people come up to me in the past and say that, they do feel that they've been subject to physical threats and harassment oftentimes. And so it's not just an issue, it is an issue of civil rights that Highland Park is focusing on today and tonight, but it's also an issue of helping people, because a lot of times people who are transgender do get harassed, and students in particular, I think, are subject to harassment and bullying and fear. So the fact that you're doing this, I think, is important to them on a personal level as well, and the fact that you have some support system in place for them is also important beyond the issue of the policy change itself. And I have to be honest, the last thing I'll say before I introduce the rest of the speakers, is this like an educational element of this for even politicians? Because, a lot of times I should just speak for myself, but a lot of times I don't feel like I fully understand what we need to do. And so I'm going to continue to educate myself. And that's one of the reasons that I came here too, because I think that the Highland Park and the Board of Ed and the people behind me who are going to speak are playing not only a civil rights role and a role that's important to the individual students, but also something that's important in terms of educating politicians and the public at the same time about what's the right thing to do. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to the mayor, Mayor Brill Mittler, who is probably one of the most progressive mayors, and I say that in a very positive way, but also probably one of the most rational people that I know in public office. So thank you for inviting me or having me come today.
Thank you all for coming out this morning. It's a beautiful morning, and I think the sun is shining because it's shining on good. It's shining on the right things. I am so proud of our superintendent of schools, Dr. Taylor, our Board of Education, and its president, Ms. Darcy Siramusi, and everyone who works so hard for this. This is not just about bathrooms. What our school board is looking at is a holistic approach to civil rights. The rights of all of our residents to be who they are. And Highland Park is taking this very seriously. Just last week, our Chief of Police, Chief Rizko, had members of the LGBT community come in and do sensitivity training for our entire police force. This is just one step to including everyone in the process of education, freedom, and democracy here in Highland Park. So again, thank you, Congressman Pallone, for all your support on all the things that we try to accomplish here in Highland Park. I really appreciate it. And again, thank you to the Board of Ed and Assemblywoman Nancy Pinkin is here today too. She's always been very supportive of what we try to do here in Highland Park. Again, thank you all.
Okay, and next we have our, well, I guess I have down that I'm going to have Darcy Simmer, those Italian names are tough. Darcy Simmer, who's the president of the Highland Park Board of Education.
For anyone who's writing it down, it's Cimarusti, Cimarusti. And I'm so very proud to stand here today with Congressman Pallone, and I want to take this time to thank him on behalf of the Highland Park Board of Education. I have a couple members here with me. Where are they? Rob Magaziner is right back there, and Judy Pietrobono is right over there. And there's one additional board member who wasn't able to be here with us today, and she was actually on the committee that created this policy, so I want to make sure to give her a nice shout out today, Michelle McFadden DiNicola. She really wanted to be here, but she's with her 5th grade daughter on her Camp Bernie trip, so she's very busy chaperoning. And I also want to give a shout out to 2 members of the committee, other committee members who are here, Lauren Picciano and Stephanie Sasso, who were instrumental in creating the policy. And the policy that they created affirms that Highland Park Public Schools are committed to ensuring that every student has equal educational opportunities and equal access to the district's educational programs and activities, and that the goal of the staff shall be to ensure the safety, comfort, privacy, and healthy development of all students, including transgender, gender nonconforming, and gender expansive students. The policy has received tremendous support from within our community and from without it as well. The board received a letter from Ari Rosmarin, the public policy director of the ACLU-NJ. He wrote that our policy advances safety and dignity by empowering students to fully participate in all aspects of student life while respecting their gender identity and protecting their privacy. Several middle school students attended our previous board meeting and presented the board with a petition signed by over 60 of their peers urging us to adopt the policy. We received several letters from middle school students as well. One 8th grade student wrote that because of the policy, her transgender peers would feel more accepted and more comfortable in coming out. She continued, stating that when students are happier, they learn better in class, improving grades and helping the school improve. Transgender kids deserve the right to be happy, just like every other kid. And finally, the parent of an incoming transfer student from Madison, Wisconsin, wrote to the board and said, "How relieved and proud I feel that we have chosen to make HP our family's new home." The student, who will enter Highland Park High School in the fall, also sent a personal note to myself and to Dr. Taylor that stated, "Being transgender, this policy feels so welcoming to me and others in my community. In Wisconsin, there have been attempts to pass laws similar to that which North Carolina passed, and lots of systematic and indirect discrimination that I have faced. So it's very refreshing coming into a school with this sort of policy. I couldn't have designed a better one myself. Thank you so much for working to protect my rights as a trans person. It means a lot to me." And I was fortunate enough to hear the Reverend Dr. William Barber speak at a conference just last month in Raleigh, North Carolina. Reverend Barber is the president of the North Carolina NAACP and a tireless advocate of civil rights in his state. He spoke about HB 2, the Public Facilities Privacy and Security Act, the bill that has stirred up a firestorm in North Carolina and across the nation. Reverend Barber said it very plainly. HB 2 is not a bathroom bill, as it has been dubbed, but rather it is a hate bill. The policy the Highland Park Board of Education will vote on tonight makes it clear that there is no room for such hate in Highland Park Public Schools, and that the board, administration, students, and staff are committed to the well-being of our transgender, gender nonconforming, and gender expansive students. We invite other districts across the state to join us in adopting similar policies and in making their schools safe, welcoming spaces for all students. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Darcy. And next we have the superintendent, Scott Taylor.
Thank you. Great to have you all here. Welcome to Highland Park. The Highland Park School District has long prided itself on promoting tolerance and supporting kids of all types of needs, whether they are social, emotional needs or learning needs, for years. So this policy is just another illustration of how supportive our faculty and our leadership team is to protecting the rights of all kids from kindergarten through 12th grade. I thought I would talk for a few minutes about the nuts and bolts of the policy, and I'd be glad to elaborate later on its evolution and its future implementation. We began as an ad hoc committee of 4, including myself, Dr. Stephanie Sasso, introduced previously, Michelle McFadden DiNicola, member of the board, and Lauren Picciano, Dr. Lauren Picciano, who's a parent in our community. We met over the course of 4 long, arduous meetings to look at sample policies from around the country. We also examined resources from such great organizations as Garden State Equality, and developed a homegrown policy that suits our needs and just turns out to be one of the more progressive policies out there. What makes this policy, in my eyes, cutting edge is not so much the bathroom policy or even the language that's written into the policy, but specifically a plan that we will be requiring our staff to follow that will be developed in concert with a transgender child or a child who's transitioning, along with his or her parents, if such is applicable, to be sure that formal, structured supports are in place for these kids. So this is a plan that will be written and will be formalized, signed off on by all interested parties, and then enacted soon after a child comes to a guidance counselor or an administrator or a teacher, whoever he or she feels confidence in coming out to, and that plan will be implemented immediately. In the future, near future, I plan on leading a series of professional development workshops for the leadership team over the summer, and then again with our staff in the fall when they return to school. One of the first things we'll do as a school community is read the policy together, look at some of the highlights, just be sure that we're all on the same page when it comes to what we have now, well, as of tonight, I don't want to be presumptuous, as of tonight, will be enacting to protect the rights of these children. So with that, I'm going to pass the torch back to Congressman Pallone. Thank you for being here, Congressman Pallone.
Thank you, Superintendent. So next we have Aaron Potenza, who's Director of Programs for Garden State Equality. As you know, Garden State Equality has been in the forefront in our state with regard to the LGBT community and trying to enact legislation. Probably the most important thing that they did was marriage equality, which they worked on for so many years and were successful. Thank you, Aaron, for being here.
Thank you. Hi. So as Congressman Pallone stated, my name is Aaron Potenza, and I'm the Director of Programs at Garden State Equality. Garden State Equality, if you are not aware, is New Jersey's largest LGBT civil rights organization. And I'm really honored to be here today in Highland Park. It's a beautiful day, and I think it's really a beautiful thing that's being done here, especially in this current political climate, which can be really harsh for transgender people and especially for transgender youth. So I myself am a transgender man. I'm an advocate for LGBT youth in the state of New Jersey. And as I said, I'm honored to be here today with one of our outstanding partners in Washington, Congressman Pallone, who has long been an advocate for the LGBT community, and as he was saying, was one of the individuals who pushed for the federal government to take a stand on equal protection for around gender identity and sexual orientation in the past couple of years. I also want to thank, of course, the Highland Park community, the Highland Park Board of Education, Superintendent Taylor, Assemblywoman Pinkins for being here, all the other dignitaries who are here who really put in the hard work of crafting what I think is an amazing policy. So I just want to say a couple of things about what we're doing for youth in New Jersey, and then again about these policies. I want to say that as a transgender person, my very identity has really been politicized over the past couple of months. Who I am, or who someone else believes that I am, has become a part of a contentious national debate. And I want to say that transgender people, and especially transgender youth, are facing an organized campaign that seeks to roll back LGBT civil rights broadly by targeting and scapegoating some of our most vulnerable members, right, transgender people, and particularly transgender youth. According to a recent Washington Post article, this sort of really ugly rhetoric and transphobic attacks have already resulted in an increase in calls to suicide hotlines nationwide by youth who identify as transgender or gender nonconforming. Experts are stating that this current political climate and debate over bathrooms could result in a health crisis among LGBT youth, because these hateful comments that we really see on social media, but that we also hear from some of our elected representatives, and sometimes from the media, are, legitimizing this message that you're not welcome here, that your safety is not paramount, and that you, as you see and understand yourself, do not actually have a right to exist. So I've worked with transgender youth and their families in New Jersey for a number of years, and I want to say that over the past couple of weeks, actually, parents are reporting they're afraid for their children because they're seeing these messages on social media, and it's really unacceptable. It's happening in New Jersey as well. It's toxic, it's unkind, and it has become exhausting, and I can only imagine, right, if it's exhausting for me, how it feels for young people who are just coming to terms with their sexual orientation and gender identity. But I have also seen over the course of the past year a tremendous amount of support in New Jersey. So I've seen communities and school districts across the state that are doing the right thing. So communities like Highland Park, right, that have been doing the right thing for years and that really took the time and put in the effort to get a policy like this right. Communities that are standing up for these young people and who are saying not only is this the law and we need to abide by state and federal law, but it's also the right thing to do and the moral thing to do. So at Garden State Equality, this has become one of the calls we get. The past year, it's become the most frequent call that we get from school districts asking about training and policy on these issues. We've been providing that. We've been working with New Jersey Department of Education on it as well as a whole host of professional organizations in the state. We have our own model policy that we offer. We offer training on that policy and consultation on it. But I think the outcome you've seen here, just tremendous, right? That you didn't just take sort of a template policy and run with it, but you spent, I think Superintendent Taylor was saying, 4 months, right, 4 lengthy meetings to really get that policy right for those students. So I think, I just want to say that I'm grateful to be here today, to be able to thank the community of Highland Park for standing up for our young people, and to thank Congressman Pallone, Mayor Mittler, President, I'm Italian, so I'm gonna say it's Cimarusti, okay? And also Assemblywoman Pinkins for being here today and for sending an important message to vulnerable youth that while there's a lot of animosity and even hate out there, this community stands with them and is supportive of their rights and identities. So I just want to thank you all again.
Thank you, Aaron. Okay, and last but certainly not least, because of all that she does with regard to civil rights in general, Assemblywoman Nancy Pittman.
Well, thank you everyone for being here today. I think that the mayor frequently talks about their affiliation with Rutgers and how many people from Highland Park are affiliated with the university. So they tend to be change agents and thinking and questioning things that happen. And the issue of transgender is something that most people don't understand. And as Congressman Pallone said, as legislators, we're frequently asked to take up issues that we're not experts on and we really don't know about. So the bathroom issue, as was mentioned, I think is just sort of a symptom that we really don't know enough about transgender. Originally, we thought there were 2 sexes, male and female. Now, as we do healthcare research, we're finding out that there may be as many as 1,000 variations, maybe even more. We think we know everything about healthcare, but we really don't. We don't know everything about so many issues, and we have to be able to be forward-thinking and to be able to be flexible and to change and make sure, as was mentioned, that we're able to protect the civil rights of all individuals. So I think, I commend Highland Park again for being on the cutting edge of another policy that's so important to making sure that children can grow up and be healthy and well-adjusted and productive members of society. So this is a great thing. The thing I want to stress to the public is to continue to advocate. If there's something that legislators need to know about, and they shouldn't have to change their vote because they are uneducated on a particular issue, they should be able to know the facts and be able to make sure, as was mentioned, that we're protecting everybody. So thank you, Congressman Pallone, for taking up this important issue.
Thank you. All right, let's mention the principal. I think everybody back here was mentioned, not the principal. Principal is of the high school is Mike Lassiter. Okay, that was an easy one. Yes. All right. Any questions that any of you have?
Congressman, do we know how widespread this or similar policies are in New Jersey at this point?
I don't think that, the simple answer is no, I don't know. I know that, well, I probably shouldn't speak on it because I'm not familiar enough, but I think that Highland Park, was trying to get some kind of direction from the state, but the state, do you want to talk about that? Go ahead.
Sure, I can speak to it a bit. There are model policies out there. I believe New Jersey School Boards Association has a model policy, and there's another policy, the policy service that we subscribe to is called Strauss-Esme, and we did receive a model policy. We just weren't satisfied with the model policy, and specifically the piece that I, as a board member, didn't appreciate about the policy was it gave the administration wide berth in terms of questioning a child about their gender identity to find out whether it was genuinely held, I believe was the wording. So what makes this policy so much different is it leaves those decisions up to the student and their families and does not give administrators that right to question a student about things that they should not be questioning a student about. And other districts across the state have taken their own stab at the policy. Princeton, for instance, is one of the policies that we modeled ours on, and they crafted their own individual policy. I understand that right now Hopewell Valley is also looking at their own policy, so I think we're starting to see this spread more throughout the state.
But as a follow-up to that then, and I think it was mentioned earlier and I may have missed it, it is up to the student to proclaim that identity to the administration.
Correct. Or their family.
Or their family.
Yes.
Proclaim that.
Right. And it actually, even the policy actually, if I'm correct, differentiates between students in K through 5 and students in 6 through 12 in their ability to advocate for themselves. So, a student in K through 5, would have their parents help them advocate, and then a student from 6 through 12 would be able to advocate for themselves even if they don't have the support of their family.
Do you think this should be left up to individual districts and towns? Would you like to see something from the state? How would you like to see this progress?
I'm not. I don't know if there has been guidance from the state, and certainly I think it would be helpful to see guidance from the state. But that's provided it would be guidance like we've seen at the national level coming from the Obama administration and Attorney General Loretta Lynch. If it's not that kind of guidance, then perhaps we don't want to. I think asking for guidance from the state is almost sometimes a mixed bag. So if it was guidance that protected the rights of all students, then certainly.
We don't, we're supportive of President Obama's guidance, so we don't want discriminatory practices. So I don't know if that's what you meant, but we certainly, I'll speak for myself, but I think for everyone here, we certainly wouldn't want school districts to be able to, discriminate against transgender students, which is basically the way I understand the federal policy says that you can. Any other questions?
In terms of enforcement of the federal policy, it's the Title IX, legal
Right.
sub-base that's being used here.
That's my understanding.
But I didn't think the White House at this point was going so far as to say that funding would be withheld.
Well, that's the issue. In other words, with Title IX, I believe that if you, consistently violate the president's guidance or policy, then you do risk losing federal funds. That's the enforcement aspect of it. Anything else? All right. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it.